For years, I was diagnosed with BPD, which stands for Borderline Personality Disorder. It is a very shaming label to be given. The condition is understandable, it comes from trauma, but the way that the professionals who teach DBT and teach CBT and treat people in the hospitals and the day programs is very degrading. And I felt completely ashamed and alone. And I would like to just explain between CBT and trauma therapy. So, where do I start? So what is BPD? So borderline personality disorder is a couple of the traits that I do identify with. Abandonment, rejection, let me think. Hypersensitivity. Marsha Linehan, founder of DBT, who herself had, as she said, borderline personality disorder. She said people with borderline personality disorder are like walking around with zero emotional skin, and like that they have like if someone like touches them, let's say says anything to them, mean or nice or anything, it feels like they're like burnt on their body. They have zero skin, burnt 90% of their body, or something like that. I'm not quoting it right, but you get the message. So it's a very sensitive person who is going to be labeled borderline. It's going to be a very vulnerable person, somebody who's been through trauma who's going to be labeled borderline. Now, it's okay to call it borderline. I don't know if it exists. Therapists have told me different things. But I do know, for me, it was extremely degrading. And the way they treated me was like very strict, tough love. And you have to work on yourself. And, what your behavior is not okay. And that's extremely hurtful and detrimental to a highly sensitive person like me. So it took me quite a journey to get where I am now, through so many hospitals and day programs and all kinds of therapy. I did music, art, therapy, CBT therapy, of course, DBT therapy, internal family systems, which is a good therapy, but it wasn't for me. What else? Art, music, talk therapy. Okay, talk therapy I've done for years and years and years. Guess where it got me? Nowhere. So now I'm in trauma therapy. At first I was in somatic therapy, and she was very good, and she helped me, but then she decided that she was not equipped to deal with my situation. So that was very hurtful. And I texted Shelton Task Force saying, I give up on therapists. This is the only therapist I ever trusted. And she rejected me. And they just listened and listened. I highly recommend texting them. What was I saying? So finally, after listening to me and validating that I can't trust, they were saying you can't trust a soul in the world. The only therapist you trusted let you down. You feel so alone. You feel like nobody wants you. And that's exactly how I felt. So after texting with them, maybe for like 3 or 4 hours for free, and getting so much compassion, understanding, validation, support, I finally said to them, okay, I'm ready for you to recommend a therapist. I'll try one more. They gave me 2 names. One called me back that day. And I can't say I completely trust this therapist, but he does EMDR. And he is so non-judgmental. He is so compassionate. He's an extremely good listener. So validating. But most of all, he doesn't believe in borderline personality disorder. He believes in trauma, emotional neglect, childhood trauma, relationship trauma, narcissistic abuse, anything. I won't get into personal details, of course, but, anything, you get what I'm saying, you get the vibe. And it's just extremely freeing to be told that it's not my fault, and that to be seen, heard, and understood for who I am and the things that I've done and the anger that I've had. It just made sense. That's the most important thing you can say to someone. It makes sense what you've done, because they were coping mechanisms. Thank you for the person who told me that. And their survival methods. For me, I used to shut down. And now finally in therapy, I'm learning. We only had like 3 sessions. He lowered his price for me. As you know, I'm looking to raise money so I can see him more often. And if you want, you can text me and I'll give you his Venmo information. Please. Thank you so much for your support. It's embarrassing for me to ask for help, but I know that you guys care. And I know that this is so important for my mental health and for my healing journey. And I'm sure many of you are listening to this and are in therapy yourselves, so you understand what it's like to be struggling to afford it. So I was saying the difference between borderline and PTSD. So I went from being called borderline personality disorder, bipolar disorder, depressed, schizoaffective, what else? Codependent. Imagine how all these labels make you feel, especially when the doctors treat you like you're basically an animal, basically not a human being, just somebody that they have to prescribe medication to. And I won't just get into that, but everyone has their own opinion. And now with this trauma therapist, I'm finally recognizing that it's not about my actions. It's about my reactions. They're just causes. They're not causes. Sorry. What caused these reactions is trauma. And how beautiful is it for me? How healing is it for me to finally have self-compassion to my inner child and to be with myself? And I highly recommend Somatic Therapy podcasts. There's one on Spotify for free and also on YouTube for free. It's called The Happy Nervous System. The Happy Nervous System. And it's a woman. I think she's a therapist. She talks in a very soothing voice. I also highly recommend, I think he's Jewish. His name is Dr. Jeffrey Rutstein, Rutstein. And he is just incredible. He has a video called How Shame Stops the Healing Process. It's like a 1.5 minute video, and it changed my life. If anybody wants me to send them links, but mainly I'm talking about myself. I'd love to help, but mainly I'm talking about myself. And I just want to also share the hope that there is hope, because I'm in therapy since I was 16. Now I'm 32. That's 16 years. Talk therapy, talking and talking and talking. Finally, I learned in trauma therapy through listening to these Happy Nervous System podcasts that talk therapy, we're not going to dismiss CBT therapy and everything like that, but you can talk to your therapist for hours and they can validate you, and you're basically reliving the trauma, and you're getting traumatized all over again. Whereas in trauma therapy, as opposed to talk therapy, which I'm not dismissing. Some therapists did help me a little bit. They guided me in the right direction. But I wish I had known that I was okay to go to trauma therapy, and that I was traumatized, because the whole time it felt like my fault. And that's how you feel as the victim, that it's your fault. So I'm here to say it's not your fault. And I highly recommend trauma therapy, EMDR or somatic. And if you want, I can ask my therapist if he's accepting new clients, and he has a sliding scale, and he's just incredible. Um, he totally understands, no censors, and yeah, I would love to be of help to anybody, because over the years I've gathered a lot of resources, videos, music, therapy. I also started drum lessons, songwriting lessons. Anyways, that's the whole spiel. That was 10 minutes, 42 seconds. Thank you for listening, and let's erase the stigma of borderline and embrace the inner child who's gone through trauma.